Alright, hello. I'm just going to be running through a game here and doing some things in the game as a bit of review for economic sectors, economic activities. As I go through, I'm going to describe what I'm doing, you're going to see what I'm doing, and what I'd like you to do on your papers is basically just draw four little corners, and one will be primary, one will be secondary, another tertiary, and finally quaternary. For each one, as I do an activity, I want you to put that activity into whichever category it is. So here's, for example, the first one. I'm in this cave here, and look, I have a copper deposit. So if I start mining, what sector would be mining copper? If I'm mining copper, what economic sector is that? There's other things I could mine as well. But think about that mining. What economic sector is mining? And please be specific. I just got copper a second ago, and then here's tin. And my pickaxe broke. Great. Okay. Well, enough for that one. Also, as we go through this, after I get through all of these specific examples you're going to see here, I would like you to also maybe think of some other examples that you maybe don't see. Alright, second example is here. Now that I have my copper, my ore, I'm going to go to my forge, and let's make that copper ore into copper bars. So what is this? If I'm taking a raw material, which is the copper ore, and I'm processing it, I'm doing something with it, making copper bars, or ingots, what economic sector is that? Primary, secondary, tertiary, or quaternary? And I've also got some tin that I made previously. So what I'm going to do now, this is your third one. Still at the forge, I'm going to combine copper and tin to make some bronze. Actually, I think I need more than just one. So again, I'm combining raw materials to make something else. My tin, my copper, making bronze. Alright, next one. This will be the third one. Now that I've got some bronze, I'm going to go to my anvil, and let's make some tools. Bronze tools. Bronze hammers. So if I'm taking those materials and crafting something, in this case all these hammers, I don't want to do that many, maybe just two. What economic sector is that? So I'm smithing, crafting tools, and I could be crafting any of these different types of tools. So crafting a tool, what sector would that be? Okay. Looks like I've got overburdened. I'm gonna head into town, but before I do that, let's check up here on my little garden. If you see, I'm growing cabbage, growing carrots, growing beetroots, growing more cabbage, and even some oats. So if I'm growing crops, all these vegetables, different crops, what economic sector is that? Growing crops. And please be, add at least one specific thing, like the carrots or the beets or the cabbage, whatever. Now this is going to take just a moment for me to get into town. You saw my garden, but here's another field. I think that is wheat, or maybe, probably wheat, I think. Passing these fields, think about what those would be. So if this is, let's see, is it going to tell me? No. Okay, so if they're growing wheat in that farm, what is that going to be? What economic sector? And the last thing before I get into town, can I see them? No, they're not out yet. Okay, so never mind. Okay, going into town, we're going to see some other things, but give me just a second to get there, to get into the village. And it may not be open, but I can at least show you that here is the market. Yeah, okay, so they're not open yet, but you can imagine that once the market opens, there'll be people here selling, I think this one is selling herbs. This one here, it looks like they're selling weapons. This market stall is selling vegetables. So all these different market stalls are selling different goods. That looks like mining supplies. So, buying and selling goods, what sector is that? If you're a merchant, say this person's selling, oh gosh, this is all kinds of wares. Oh, they're selling gifts. Or maybe this one that is selling clothes. What economic sector would that be? And the last one I want to get to, I think, is this guy. He's probably not up yet. But okay, I'll just tell you that this house is a barber. Yeah, so the guy's got a barber, and fun fact, medieval times, barbers had two jobs. They not only cut your hair or shaved your beard, but they functioned as barber surgeons. So look at that, there's all these surgical tools. Here's the operating table. So if you are a barber surgeon in the medieval era, cutting hair, maybe providing what they would call bleedings, medical services, what economic activity is that? Alright, so if we review, I had the mining, I had the smelting the ore, that was the second one, then I had the crafting tools, then I had my little garden and the farms, the market, and the barber surgeon. There is one sector that I think is really not included here because this is a medieval village. I want you to think for that sector what an example might be. And if you have time, add another additional example specific to the ones that you already have. Thanks for watching. Okay, one thing, or actually two things I wanted to add. Let's just look at some of these things. So we talked about mining the ore. First off, I want to also just acknowledge this is a game. It's not complete reality, but it's somewhat representative. Look at just the copper ore, which I have here. If you look at the price, it's 7 coins. Whereas when I put it together to make a copper bar, each bar is 28. And then if I put the copper and bronze, copper and tin together to make bronze, that's a sturdier material, it's even more, 140. And then the next step, making the hammer, making the tool, which is the finished good, that's 290. So if you look at it, through each step going up, the value is increasing. This is in economics calling value added. So you're going from your raw materials, your most basic elements, which the value is lower, and each step of the way towards the finished good, you're adding value. The price that it's worth, what you can sell it for, goes up. One more thing. You can see here that I've got some trees cut down. Alright, think about what economic sector that is. But let's imagine that I've been cutting down these trees, and what if, as I cut down the trees, I also want to, oh, I know there's a way I can do this. Shoot. Tell you what, let me cut and I'll come back. Okay, I'm back, I figured it out. So, let's see. Alright, here you see I'm cutting down my trees. I've already got some logs on the ground here, ready to be collected. But, let's say, as I cut down the trees, I will also planting the trees. So I've got a little sapling there. So if I'm managing the forest where I'm cutting down but also planting enough to replenish it, what kind of development is that? This is not an economic sector question. This is a separate vocabulary question. That if I am trying to manage the forest in a way to where, let's say the rate that I'm cutting it down, I'm still planting in a way that it can continue. What kind of development is that? I'm looking for a two-word vocabulary term that describes this, the kind of management of the forest. I'm taking care of my own needs, but also making sure that hopefully I plant enough of these seedlings so that future generations can fulfill their needs. Alright, thanks again.